Coming up this week on the Eurogamer TV show, it's Mirror Signal Maneuver as we check out Hotshot Xbox Racer Forza Motorsport 2, and James the cameraman gets behind the wheel of a go-kart to defend Team Eurogamer's honour. Meanwhile, it's back to the 1980s as we take a look at stunning new war strategy titled World in Conflict. But before all that, if the headset hasn't quite given it away yet, there's been one game that's been eating up quite a lot of our time over the last couple of weeks. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Halo 3!
The multiplayer beta formally launched on Wednesday, May the 16th, or actually 3 AM the next morning as frustrated Crackdown owners discovered. But us jammy hacks were sneaked in the back door the previous Friday, grabbing our beta codes at a special Halo 3 event in central London. As well as giving us a chance to flex our FPS muscles in public over a networked game, Microsoft commemorated the occasion with a live vision camera web chat with Bungie's Frank O'Connor.
Well, we're going to be playing all weekend. We're starting today in about an hour, actually. So look out for gamer tags that begin with H3SF or H3NY. And that's going to be people at kind of a sister event to the event you guys are having there. And I'll be online. My gamer tag is Frankie. A lot of the people you play with later today are going to be from Bungie too. So.
Well, not that we crumbled at the first sniff of danger or anything, but we decided to even the odds a little, creating a formidable squad of Eurogamer mercenaries to put the beta through its paces. Our combatants are Rich Grandmaster V2 Ledbetter, Rich Melvinator 77 Melville, Tom Spack Attack Bramwell, cameraman James Badman Jim Hills, and yours truly under the moniker Mankey's Fishy Poem. Frigid tundra of Snowbound was our first port of call. The match was free-for-all Slayer with rockets. The wide open nature of the surface of this stage lends itself rather well to extreme carnage. For the more strategic fighter, a network of tunnels provides refuge and useful shortcuts. There are several crucial lessons to learn here. The first is that players must learn that the sentries don't really like it if you wander beyond the boundary. Tom knows this now. Having emerged victorious from my frenzied firefight with Melvinator, I inexplicably turned the gun on myself. Let's call that lesson number 2.
Suicide.
Lesson number 3, watch your back. Lesson 4, only in video games is it advisable to pick a fight with an armoured vehicle. A heavily fortified base at one end, a rocky uphill approach at the other. Caves, vehicles, secret passages and sniping sweet spots in between. This is higher ground. We entered into a 4-on-4 team game of territories, where the offensive team must secure areas marked by flags by occupying them for a period without dying. As we discovered, when you're playing against crazy internet cyber gamers, this is easier said than done. The Mongoose makes an appearance in this stage, and the irrepressible Mr. Bramwell couldn't wait to show off his leap driving skills. And it was all going so well. That said, I'm not really in any position to criticise, as this miserable effort shows. Our enemy's team, which Melvinator had sneaked into to make up the numbers, was the worst kind of opposition. Better than us. But more to the point, snide and sneaking in the most annoying way. But the online battlefield can also be a place for heroes, and future generations will sing of brave Grandmaster who vanquished the tunnel-squatting cowards, sacrificing his own life for the Eurogamers.
Double kill.
Dual-wielding spikers are a formidable pairing. Thanks to independent reloading via the bumper buttons, the trick is balancing your ammo between arms. Which brings us on to lesson number 5. Always remember to reload, dummy. Oh, that's me. Lesson 6. Know your map. Learn where the best weapons and items are strewn. Not that even a bubble shield is any match for our Tom. To hell with all this team nonsense anyway, we thought. So it was snipers at the ready for one final burst across higher ground. Shotty snipers is simultaneously the most annoying and satisfying mode in the game. Sadly for James, it was mainly annoying. mainly in an amazing show of Eurogamer TV solidarity, thanks to me.
Killing spree.
With so much time spent gazing into your scope, anybody could be stalking your ass. But don't forget lesson 7. Always remember to shoot. Otherwise, you might just get humiliatingly slapped down to the ground, sucker. Valhalla is a verdant mountainous stage, bookended by 2 bases. Rivers, valleys and hills offer a variety of approaches for wily players. It's perfect for team-based activity, and we teamed up once more for VIP. In this game, each team has a VIP marked out by a star. You only score points for killing the VIP. Each time one dies, another random player takes up the Poison Chalice.
VIP kill.
The Warthog, as Halo veterans know, allows one player to drive while another mans the turrets. Having put the differences of the last map behind us, James and I raced our 4-wheel beast into action. Lesson number 8. When using the headset, don't assume your teammate will have any idea what you're talking about.
Oh, fuck it, behind me! Behind us! Behind us!
Right, well that's quite enough humiliation for me. Well, let's find out what the other Eurogamers made of their inaugural Halo 3 experience.
Overall, I'm pretty impressed so far. Graphics aren't quite as good as I was expecting, and I think it's far more of an evolution of Halo 2 as opposed to a brand new game based on the new 360 architecture. I'm not very good at Halo 3. I do know people who are good at Halo 3 though. Some of them are the people we played against today, or, well, I hope they were good because they certainly made us look bad. And another of them is my friend Max, who works at Bungie. Yeah, that's his business card. Hopefully you couldn't read his mobile phone number off that.
I think that the higher ground level has a few clues to what's going to be in the single player game. There's a giant missile launcher like device that seems quite exciting, and it points to a bigger environment and sort of launching bigger weapons, using bigger vehicles and things like that.
One of the things that's been introduced to Halo 3 is the equipment button, the X button, and that brings with it a little sort of shield bubble and a portable bounce pad. I think they're calling it the reverse gravitational pad or something. It's a bounce pad. And anyway, people were making very good use of them on higher ground.
I think on the beta, Valhalla is the best level, purely because you've got a clear view of sight from both of the bases, which makes it great for team play.
But in terms of the gameplay, in terms of the online experience, I think it's absolutely superb. I mean, I'm playing from the Middle East with people in the US, Europe, and it's just like playing a LAN game.
I also enjoy playing around with the Brute Spiker, which is one of the new guns. You can dual wield it. I looked it up on Wikipedia, and I found that was very effective at taking down enemies, in as much as I was effective at taking down enemies.
I think on the beta the matchmaking's really slow. I know Bungie have said that it's going to be faster, and they've got this weird sort of X-Men style planet that you can zoom out in and see players all around the world where the Halo 3 hotspots are. That seems quite good, but I'm really hoping it'll be faster to just hop into a match.
Yeah, I think in terms of the games I had with the rest of the Eurogamer crew, the only thing we really sort of managed to prove beyond all reasonable doubt was how crap we were at the game.
Well, when we played the game, Ledbetter was very good, but that's because he doesn't have a job and spends most of his time online.
Game over.
Right, pay attention, strategy fans. Let's be honest, you've been spoiled rotten over the past year with benchmarks setting titles like Company of Heroes and Supreme Commander. THQ's RTS giants gave the genre a hefty boot up the arse and dragged it back to the cutting edge of game development. Later this year, Sierra will be mobilising its rival army to advance the war effort once more. World in Conflict is the creation of Massive Entertainment, the Swedish strategy specialist that brought you the Ground Control series. Well, it seems that all those years of warmongering have finally gone to the heads of those crazy Swedes. and now they'll settle for nothing less than the total annihilation of the competition. World in Conflict is set in the 1980s against the backdrop of the Cold War. Yet where the real Cold War never collapsed into direct engagement, this historical reworking sees a fragile Soviet Union storm Europe and, in a dramatic simultaneous operation, invade North America. It's all been written by a chap called Larry Bond, who we're assured is a Cold War authority. He co-authored Red Storm Rising with Tom Clancy, so he ought to know his stuff. And it's a conflict that has so far been rather underexploited as the games industry continues to carpet bomb World War II's battlefields.
There have been so many World War II games, and a lot of them are a lot of fun. But when we started out doing World in Conflict, we really sat down and thought, okay, what type of setting do we want to have it in? And our previous games, we've had a sci-fi setting, and we love that, and we also love this fantasy setting. But it became clear pretty quickly that we wanted to do something more contemporary. So World War II or Vietnam or sort of the whole Middle East terrorist thing. But then someone said, I don't recall who, but someone said, hey, how about sort of doing a what-if scenario with the Cold War going hot? And we started talking about it and just realized that having these two superpowers, the US versus the USSR, is just a fantastic opportunity.
You might well shrug your shoulders at all this effort to provide a deep storyline for an RTS, and we might be inclined to agree with you were it not for the astonishing game engine, which gives a cinematic feel to the action unlike anything we've ever seen in a strategy game.
This is what we've been doing for 10 years, these kinds of experiences. And I mean, there are so many gamers who the visual experience is the first thing that strikes them. And if they like that, then they're going to sort of have a second look. And then once they start playing, it really gives a whole new emotional aspect to a game like this, where you can just move the camera in any direction you want and just zoom in really close or zoom out. Many times a really detached experience. It doesn't really feel that you're part of a bigger war. It's just you and your units on the battlefield, and then you control them, and if you defeat the enemy, then that's fine. But we really wanted to create something, and we took a cue from first-person shooter games, the sort of the emotional aspects of Call of Duty and the Medal of Honor, where you really feel that you're part of a bigger war. And that's exactly the same thing we've made sure to convey in World of Conflict.
The real fun in World of Conflict will likely come from the epic devastation players are able to cause. Everything is destructible. Massive wants to show what happens when a Spielberg-esque town is utterly destroyed, reducing Heartland America or continental Europe to a giant ashtray.
It's an audiovisual experience playing a game, obviously. So we've put a lot of effort into making sure that it's sort of part of the buildings will be destroyed, obviously, but also the whole visual aspects of the game, the sky, everything will be changed, and then of course also the audio and the music will change depending on how destroyed the entire map is.
And nothing changes the mood quite as much as the most satisfying and terrible weapon in the entire game, the nuke. Multiplayer, which we've known about for a while, is no less ambitious. Massive wants to do for the RTS here what Counter-Strike and Battlefield did for the FPS.
The multiplayer in World in Conflict is truly unique. You can drop into a game. You can join an ongoing game at any time, which is a first for strategy games. The single player is going to draw people in, and a lot of players only want to play the single player, and that's going to be fantastic for them. But then the multiplayer is where sort of the longevity of the game is. You're going to have so much fun playing it, and since the matches are by default limited to 20 minutes, it's going to be so easy to just jump in, have some fun over lunch, or between homework or whatever you're doing, and then do your homework or do your work or whatever, and then continue playing in the evenings.
So, World in Conflict looks the bollocks, but only an extended tour of duty will reveal whether it will truly earn its place in RTS history. Mercifully, with the game due out this autumn, there's not too much longer to wait.
Well, when the developers of Forza Motorsport pick a fight, they go for the big guys. And so it was that they went head-to-head with Sony's mighty Gran Turismo in the last generation, giving the PlayStation 2 favourite a serious run for its money. Well, now that the next GT is still being put together in the factory, there's a real opportunity for the latest Xbox Dream Machine to snatch pole position.
Of course, while all the initial hype billed Forza as a Gran Turismo beta, when it emerged from the garage, the driving experience was fresh, unique and distinctive. The pressure this time around then is rather different. Where the original Forza raced out of nowhere to wow the Xbox crowd, Forza 2 has to set a benchmark of driving brilliance on next-gen systems. Any flat tyres at this stage would be disastrous for Microsoft. But with game director Dan Greenawalt behind the wheel, Forza 2 looks well on course. This guy really is all about cars, and probably pours petrol on his cornflakes and brushes his teeth with motor oil. You see, Dan is a man on a mission to make you care about cars.
So the goal of this game is to really turn gamers into car lovers and turn car lovers into gamers, and create a really big community that can get excited about cars, excited about games, and argue.
This point is absolutely essential and is likely to be the deciding factor in whether Forza 2 is viewed simply as a good game or a classic. The gaming community and user-generated content are key, with the philosophy of the MySpace generation in full effect.
It's not just about remaking an old sim. It's about saying, hey, you want to express yourself, you're an individual, come into Forza Motorsport, customize your car, sell it on the auction house, take it online. If you're really in an online space, building community, we want you in our community. We want to teach you. We want to have you passionate. We want to have you arguing. We want to have you disagreeing with us, because that's a really vibrant community. And that's today's racing game.
And with Forza now blazing a trail, will GT creator Kazunori Yamauchi be taking notes?
I've got a fond memories of Gran Turismo, and I don't want to be trashing it. I've got a lot of respect for their team. They make a great game. Our vision is different. My vision is different. That's not the game I want to make. I want to make a game that's going to bring people in and get them excited. And, I'm always looking for new ways to do that.
Forza 2 is then, in a way, attempting to be the Top Gear of gaming, where being all about cars can still enthrall and entertain people, even if they couldn't give two hoots about what goes on under the bonnet.
What got me into cars was a game. I mean, the truth is that my first console was a PlayStation. My first game was Gran Turismo 1. I got hooked. I mean, it was a great game, and it was beautiful, and it actually informed my first car purchase. But since then, I just haven't seen a lot of, innovation in the racing game.
To bring some innovation to the racing genre, Dan and his team have been digging around in the unlikeliest of places.
One of the things that surprises people a lot is we drew a lot of inspiration from Pokemon, which isn't exactly today's pop culture, but it's just kind of a funny thing. People don't usually expect a simulator to be inspired by Pokemon. But Pokemon's a great game. I mean, it's addictive. It's got multiple leveling components, as Final Fantasy, these great RPGs. So we've actually gotten a lot from that. But also, Forza Motorsport's a sandbox. So when you look at things like Grand Theft Auto, Crackdown, where you get to experiment and choose your own path and figure out where you want to go, make your own story.
And therein lies the challenge, balancing the needs and desires of the fanatical, hardcore car mod community with those of your regular gamer who just wants a fun racer.
It really comes down to your level of sophistication. So I think the beginning player won't, and if we do what we believe we're going to do, is get people hooked with these Pokemon mechanics and other things, and they start turning things off and getting the game, experiencing the game in its full simulation, then they're now becoming kind of our passionate power users.
Now, as if chatting to the breathlessly enthusiastic Dan wasn't enough to get us in the mood for Forza 2, today's location offered the extra teaser of housing the largest indoor go-kart circuit in the UK. Perfect for fanning those flames of rivalry amongst the games press.
Well, sadly I won't be racing this afternoon because my arm's buggered and I drive like a bit of a woman anyway. But in my stead, representing the hopes and dreams of all you Eurogamers out there, it's our very own Stig of video games, James, the cameraman. James, are you ready to rock? Are you going to bring home glory to the Eurogamer empire? He's a man of few words. He's going to do his talking on the track.
With Muggins here limited to camera duties, Fearless James was under starter's orders. And away! With sophisticated tracking technology in use, I watched on as the James Juggernaut raced up the rankings. The thrill and feel of a racing wheel is one thing the joypad can never quite match, of course, so Microsoft is using Forza 2 to help pimp its tasty racing wheel peripheral. And we've no doubt that for some of you, this is about as many G's as you're comfortable with. Back out on the circuit, James was holding his own despite fierce competition and that unmistakable whiff of testosterone. By the end of the shattering endurance race, our cameraman's Schumacher-esque manoeuvring earned him a creditable 4th place overall, narrowly missing out on a podium place. Further down the field, but equally relentless in his pursuit of go-karting glory, was another friend of Eurogamer, who also tackled the game in rather more sedate surroundings. We caught up with him sweating profusely moments after the gruelling race.
Obviously it's a simulation, so it's geared towards realism. Although they're obviously keen to stress that the game is sort of adaptable to people who aren't necessarily kind of petrol heads, because there's also the stuff they emphasised was stuff like kind of customising your car, doing paint jobs. You know, they've got an almost kind of Photoshop type paint system in it, and so you know they envisage like the kind of auction process. You know, auctioning cars, auctioning paint jobs as being a massive component. And one of the neat things that they mentioned actually was that you know, if you're an experienced driver, or experienced race game player, then as you go through the game, if you play the game without the racing assists turned on, like what actually happens is you kind of progress through the game more quickly. So you open up the more high-powered cars.
You can work yourselves up into a sweat as Forza Motorsport 2 screeches onto Xbox 360 on June the 8th.
I wasn't able to join in the last 2 games of Halo 3 for part of this wonderful show because I was taking my mum to the station so she could go to York and see my sister.